Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessie Nealon, and today we are going to be talking about the fifth and final of the most common characteristics that I see among folks who identify with the self-objectifier body image avatar. And that is that they use words like disgusting and gross to describe themselves and their bodies all the time. More so than any other avatar, they say like disgust type words and faces and reactions when talking about their body. So for example, someone will say like, oh, I don't mind my legs, but my belly, ugh, it's so gross. Like it's just disgusting. Like that kind of reaction, that big disgust, visceral reaction is super, super common when the self-objectifier is talking about their body. And I think it's really important that we understand why that is, because the disgust reaction we're born with it. It's an evolutionarily advantageous mechanism built into us, basically wired into us from birth, in which we are grossed out by stuff that's bad for us. Toxic things make us feel disgusted, and that disgust makes us want to get the heck away from it as quickly as we possibly can. So there is a reason, that we feel disgust in things that are toxic and disgusting, like corpses and feces and things that have like pathogens in them. But it's true with moral disgust as well. So moral disgust is obviously not about pathogens. It's not going to necessarily get you sick in that way, but it is something that we are taught to basically understand as bad for us anyway, understand as toxic, understand as dangerous, And so then we have a disgust reaction to things that we perceive to be like a moral issue. Moral corruption, for example. Disloyalty might be something you feel disgusted by. When you hear a story of someone who like cheated on their spouse, you might be like, ugh, feeling sort of that disgust by them. The same thing happens when it comes to our bodies. We learn that being fat, particularly, is a moral issue. It is a signal of moral corruption, and therefore we feel disgust when we think about it. With that, we also feel disgust about the parts of ourselves that are related to the ways in which we sort of let down what we see as our moral obligation to be a good person and fulfill our role or duty in society. So for the self-objectifier, they've been taught, and they believe on some level, that their job is to be attractive, that their job is to make other people feel good, that their job is to, turn people on and offer them pleasure and gratification. So if they're not doing that successfully, if they're not meeting every little beauty and body ideal that they think about, they will often meet that with a feeling of disgust, self-disgust about their body especially. So the words and the sort of faces and like that whole like ugh kind of visceral reaction is something we see among self-objectifiers so often. And if you think about it, that disgust reaction is really about getting away from something, right? It's about like getting the heck out of here. Whereas attraction and arousal are exactly the opposite. They're about coming closer. When you see something that arouses you, you want to get closer to it. When you see something that disgusts you, you want to get away from it, further away from it. So in that way, these are kind of mutually exclusive experiences and sort of exact antithetical experiences. And what's interesting is in the body, you can't really feel both at the same time. At least not full force. You can't feel full force disgust and full force arousal at the same time. There is a mechanism that goes on in the body that basically allows us to continue to have sex, even though there's like disgusting, sort of pathogen-ridden possibilities down there, right? If you think about before they had plumbing, before they had running water, like people were still having sex, even though it may have been actually something that would get them sick. And so having arousal and disgust work like this in the body was something that kept us alive as a species. It allowed us to still want to have sex, even though there is something there that when not aroused might make you feel really grossed out, So with all of that in mind, the self-objectifier tends to think about themselves and their bodies through a lens of disgust and feeling grossed out or squicked out or like icked out, and that is unfortunately the last and final most common characteristic that we see among the self-objectifier. So if that relates to you, if you have experienced that, it's totally possible that you are a self-objectifier as well, and learning to sort of hold the moral disgust differently, like tell yourself a different story, learn how to not be disgusted by things that were taught to you are morally bad. You are able to do that by basically unlearning the idea that they're bad and that they're actually neutral and sometimes even positive. And that is the work that the self-objector has to do to move past this one. So if this video was helpful to you, I would love if you left me a comment. Go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you get a notification every time I post a new video. And thank you for being here and watching. I'll catch you next time.